In a kingdom surrounded by lush green hills and sparkling rivers, there lived a wise and kind king named Ife. King Ife had a grand palace with gleaming marble floors. He had a collection of the best art, and his palace was filled with ancient and modern collections of precious stones, jewels, and gold. He, in fact, was a wealthy and content king. Amongst everything he owned in all his kingdom, what King Ife loved the most was his beautiful garden. In the heart of this garden stood a magnificent apple tree, tall and strong, with branches that spread wide and bore the juiciest, sweetest apples anyone had ever tasted. The tree had been planted by the king's father, and it held a special place in the king's heart. The king never let anyone into that garden, not even his most trusted allies and friends. Every day, King Ife would visit his beloved apple tree, sitting under its shade and savoring the crispy apple it offered. But one fateful morning, the king noticed that the leaves on his precious tree were beginning to wither. The vibrant green leaves were turning yellow and brown, and the apples were falling to the ground before they could ripen. Distressed, the king summoned the best gardeners, scholars, and herbalists from across the kingdom. Whoever can save my apple tree will be rewarded with a royal assignment, the king proclaimed. Excited by the promise of such a reward, young men from the village and beyond flocked to the palace. They brought with them potions, herbs, special soils, and all sorts of remedies. They were let into the garden one after another to try and revive the tree. They would go in, apply their remedies, and be given a few days for the remedy to take effect. But no matter what they tried, the tree continued to wither. Days turned into weeks, and still the tree's condition worsened. The king was beginning to lose hope at this point, and he was extremely sad that the only thing his father left him would be lost. One day, a poor farmer named Oji, who lived on the outskirts of the village, heard about the king's plight. Oji was known for his simple life, and many in the village looked down on him because he was poor and often kept to himself. But Oji had a gift. He had a deep knowledge of plants and understood the language of nature, something he had learned from his father and his father before him. Determined to help, Oji made his way to the palace. When he arrived at the gate of the palace, the guards refused to let him in. "Go tell the king that I can revive his apple tree," he said to the guards. The king was exhausted at this point. "But there is no harm in trying," he muttered. "Let him in," the king commanded. The king was surprised to see him. "Why have you come, Oji the farmer?" asked King Ife. "The finest minds in the kingdom have tried and failed. What makes you think you can succeed?" Oji bowed humbly and replied, "Your Majesty, I may not have wealth or status, but I know the language of the earth. If you allow me try, I would be able to revive the tree in a couple of days. However," he added, "I do not want a special assignment, as that might be too much to ask. I only want to be granted my freedom and allowed to return to the kingdom if I succeed. The king, impressed by Oji's courage and sincerity, agreed. "Very well, Oji," said King Ife. "If you can save my tree, you shall have your freedom." The news spread throughout the village like wildfire, and the villagers were all keen to know the result of this daring move by the farmer. Oji wasted no time. He examined the root of the tree and the soil around it. He touched the bark of the tree and felt the breeze that whispered through its branches. Then he did something unexpected. He spoke to the tree. "What troubles you, dear friend?" he whispered softly, as if the tree could hear him. He put his ear on the tree and nodded with a smile on his face. The king and his guards watched on in surprise. The next morning, Oji began his work. He mixed a special blend of natural herbs and ingredients he had gathered from the forest and gently spread it around the base of the tree. Each day, he watered the tree with care and made sure it had just the right amount of sunlight. He also sang to the tree, ancient songs his father had taught him, believing that the tree could feel his kindness. Days passed, and something miraculous began to happen. The leaves of the tree slowly turned green again, and new buds began to form. The apples that grew were more vibrant and sweeter than ever before. The once withering tree had come back to life, stronger and healthier than it had ever been. When the king saw the tree, his heart was filled with joy. He summoned Oji to his palace and embraced him. "You have done the impossible, Oji," King Ife said. "You have saved my most cherished tree, and for that, I will keep my promise. You are a free man." But the king did not stop there. He appointed Oji as his royal gardener, a position of great honor and respect. The villagers who once shunned Oji now looked up to him with admiration. And so, the once ostracized farmer became a trusted advisor to the king, and the apple tree in the garden continued to flourish for many years to come. The kingdom prospered, and King Ife and Oji the farmer became close friends and allies. The story, a quick reminder that the stone the builders rejected can become the cornerstone at the least expected time. This is the end of my story.